Okay guys, so by now you should have all of your clay on your armature. Okay, remember if it was feeling very weak on the neck area, you should have put the shoulders on and let it set up for an hour or two and then put the head on. So hopefully by now you're at this point. So the next thing we want to do is draw some of our lines on the face so we know where all of the facial features are going to be. We're going to start by drawing one right down the middle. Okay, and then we're going to divide this whole piece up and do one vertically down the middle. I mean horizontally. I said that wrong. Okay, now we're going to take this section from the middle of where the eyes are. Also, the other thing I didn't show is I kind of pushed in with my thumbs, kind of where the eye sockets would be. So I should show that again. Okay. So this is going right through the middle of the eyes. So from the middle of the eyes down to the bottom of the chin, we want to divide this up into thirds. Okay, now you can use a ruler if you want to, but I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. Oh, that looks a little bit, needs to go a little bit higher. So like right there and right there. Okay, and that's about perfect. So I'm going to divide this up and just kind of eyeball it, and these look pretty similar in size, so they look pretty good. Okay, so this is going to be the bottom of my nose, this is going to be the inside of the lips, and this is the bottom of my chin. Okay, all right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I always like to start with the nose. So remember, these features are going to be quite a bit smaller than what you did on your mask. So I'm going to roll up a coil, and you want to make sure that you're looking at your reference pictures. You know, is the nose wide? Is it thin? So again, I'm doing Mulan, so my nose is pretty thin. As far as thickness wise, you know, I have a paintbrush here, so it's a little bit thicker than the paintbrush. Okay, so I'm going to stick this right here, and this is way too long, so I'm going to take that off. If your piece is getting a little bit dry, you may need to slip and score this on there. Okay, so I'm just smearing it in a little bit. You could use a tool. I've been using the spoon quite a bit to smear stuff in. Okay, I like to look at it from a profile just to kind of make sure that I have everything right. And just looking at Mulan's picture, it looks like her nose is not quite that long. And it looks like to me that it sticks up just a little bit more. So I'm just going to add a little bit onto it. Okay, and that looks a little bit better. Remember that your nose is always a little bit thinner right up here in between your eyes. So I'm just going to thin that out a little bit, and then it gets wider as it goes down. Some people it's a lot wider, so you know, again, you have to look at your picture. Okay, I'm going to put the nostrils on now. So just get me some little pieces here. Roll up some little balls. So a little bit bigger than our balls that we used for our rain sticks. And I'm going to push that in. Again, I'm using the back of my nail. You could use the back of this spoon. You could use a pencil. I really found that my back of my paintbrush, I really like it too. Okay, so again, look at it from the side. That looks really good from the side. From the front, it looks a little bit wide to me compared to the picture. So I'm just gonna bring it in just a little bit more. Okay. And then you gotta find something that you can create the nostrils with. I'm gonna use this paintbrush here, so you may have to kind of look around the house, see what you have. Because the nostrils are not really a perfect circle. They're more of like an almond shape. Okay. Remember also, almost everybody has a little bit of flesh kind of hanging down here a little bit, so I'm going to add a little bit of that. Okay. Looks pretty decent. Could definitely go back and add a few more details to it. Maybe bring these nostrils back just a tiny little bit. Just gonna mess up the hole, so now I'll have to go back and put the hole back. Okay, so now I'm gonna go on to the eyes. So you're gonna roll up 2 balls of clay. Remember, these eyes should be significantly smaller than your eyes that you did on your mask. So I'll kind of give you a size gauge in just a second. Let me roll them up. You want them to be the same. That's the big thing. If you got one bigger than the other, it's going to be really hard to make them the same. Those are pretty close. Okay, so here is my needle tool, which is about the size of a pencil. And here is my little circle. Okay, so it's about double the thickness of that. Okay, so kind of like 2 of these. Quite a bit bigger than the round bottom of a pencil, so maybe double or 3 times the size of a pencil circle. So hopefully that helps a little bit. A little bit bigger than a peanut M&M, that might help too. Okay, so we're gonna push these down. And remember, you want it the same. And again, remember that your eye is a ball and it goes back into a socket. So we want to give the impression that it rounds just a little bit. So it's going back on the edges. Also remember, the distance in between the 2 eyes is 1 eye, so don't have them too close together either, or at least smear that in at some point. Okay, so I'm going to put my hand right there, and I'm looking at this curved line here at the bottom to make sure that it looks like, you know, if her eyes were closed, and it does, then that would be in the right spot. Okay, okay, now we're going to put eyelids on there. And again, we want to lay everything on there. When you're doing your coils, make sure that you get your hands kind of wet. If not, your coils will just tend to kind of crumble and break on you. Oh, this one's breaking anyways. There we go. So you want to put both sides on kind of at the same time, or at least put them on and then don't smooth them out until you get the other side on. So I'm going to put that side on, and then I'll come over here, and I want to try and get it in the exact same spot. And so you kind of have to look at it from different views. Like that needs to go down a little bit more. And then I need to cut that off. And then that looks pretty close. Okay, so that's what I want to do. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to smear this in. Again, using the back of my spoon. Or you can use the back of your nail, whatever you can use to kind of smooth it out. And that's going to mess up the shape a little bit, but that's okay. We can go back and we can fix that. Okay, so I'm just gonna put a little bit of water in there, and I'm using my fingernail, or a paintbrush would work really good. And I'm just gonna push that edge down a little bit more. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So now here's the hard part, is I gotta try and make it look exactly the same on this side. And it does kind of mess up the shape a little bit, so you have to go back and you have to fix and rearrange it a little bit, but it's pretty dang close. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do the bottom. We're gonna do it the exact same way. We're gonna place one side, and then we'll do the other, and then we'll smear them out. Again, you don't ever wanna do one eye and then try to do the other one. It just never seems to work out. It's super hard to get it the same once you've already smeared it out. Okay. Again, if it starts to crack on you, make sure that you get your fingers wet. That will help. And just try to make sure that you get this bottom coil the same as the other side. Okay, that looks pretty close. Okay, so now we can smear these out. This is a pretty big bottom lid. It's a little bit thicker than it probably needed to be, but in a way that's not really bad because that gives me more clay that I can kind of smear down here so that she looks young. Remember, we don't want it to look like there's kind of a dent under the eye because that gives the appearance of a bag or that it's older looking. And again, it's going to mess up that kind of almond shape inside the eye a little bit. That's okay, we can go back and we can fix that. But I am trying to be careful and not mess it up too much because that's less work I have to do. Okay, so now I'm just gonna go in here and kind of smooth it out, get that shape. Okay, now if you did have kind of like bags or dents under the eyes, which this is not too bad, so I think I'm gonna keep this, then you could add some little coils right down in there, but mine doesn't look too bad. So now the tear duct, this is kind of where your tears are made. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna show that. So I'm just gonna take a tiny little bit out right there. Same thing on the other side. Okay, make sure that your eyes are pointing in the direction that you want. Like looking at my reference picture, her eyes kind of slant up a little bit. So I really want to try and show that. The other thing you can do is get your paintbrush and get everything nice and smooth inside here before you go on. Getting any little extra pieces of clay out. This is pretty wet, so you might want to wait till it dries a little bit, but the other thing you can do is put the iris of the eye. That's basically the color of the eye. Remember, your eyes, usually the lids cover it a little bit. Unless you're really kind of making your eyes look big, you usually don't see the full circle. And make sure whatever you do on one side, you do it on the other. Okay? So probably a little bit more smoothing, but overall that's pretty good. So I'll show the mouth in the next video.